You've got the Aura Ring, the Whoop Band, the AI-powered mattress, and yet you still wake up feeling like crap every single day. Meanwhile, your medicine cabinet looks more like a CVS pharmacy, and every solution creates three new problems. Today's guest spent 30 years mastering homeopathy and just built an AI version of himself that clients can chat with 24/7. Marcus Fernandez reveals how ancient German medicine principles, combined with smart technology, can help you reclaim your vitality without becoming dependent on either pills or gadgets. You'll discover the 4 daily pillars that have him feeling better. You're not going to believe this. Feeling better at 54 than he did at 34, while your wearable data might be gaslighting you, and simple kitchen remedies that work better than most urgent care visits. This isn't about ditching modern medicine. This is about using wisdom and technology as tools, not crutches. You're listening to Brobots. This is the podcast that helps you use AI and technology to safely manage your health and well-being. And like I said, our guest is Marcus Fernandez. Really fun guy to talk to. Great conversation coming up here for you. And we started with somewhere where I wasn't sure how we were going to connect the dots. Is really trying to blend AI, technology, all of this modern tech we have in all of our pockets and probably on 4 appendages. How does that blend with homeopathy? That's where our conversation begins.
I've been a homeopath for 30 odd years, a long time. And I don't know much you know about homeopathy, but basically it's natural medicine. It's about really stimulating the body to heal itself. So the whole thing with the AI, I'm actually really excited about. I mean, in fact, I did a lecture at a conference last year on homeopathy and AI, and I think half the audience hated me. The other half of the audience was like intrigued and wanted to know more. So it's quite interesting bringing this whole AI conversation into the natural health world, where often it's about ancient wisdom and natural healing. But I think they can both. I think we can both. They can exist together. It's just how we use it. And I mean, I've been excited about AI way before ChatGPT. It's always something I've been interested in, and I think we're living in very exciting times. And I still don't know where I sit with it. I love it. Then I think, oh my God, this is like, this is this is scary.
It's an amazing tool that's going to end us all.
Exactly. We've all got Skynet. We've all been there. So right. I think it's such an amazing time to be around. And I think what we're going to see in the next 2 to 5 years is just going to be phenomenal. But I think we've also, you can't put your head in the sand. It's here. It's already here. It's been here for a while, and especially in technology. So I think we need to know how we sort of understand it. And I believe that it's about enhancing what we do. Augmentation. It's not necessarily about replacing. So that's my feeling. So really, it's the old and it's the future. So it's homeopathy and AI is something that I feel can coexist. And in fact, I'm doing that already.
What's the biggest health mistake you see middle-aged men making that homeopathy could actually help with? And I ask this in the context of probably someone who's older than middle-aged, actually going through and who's played with tons of different homeopathic techniques and tried different things with various levels of success. And I published articles on this. I made an app for it specifically to go through and track biometric data. And I still know I'm not hitting the mark. So what are your recommendations here?
I think it's funny because I get asked this question a lot. I mean, I'm still a practitioner as well, and I just think it's getting the basics right. I just think it's going back to the basics, and that I use this. I love the acronym MEDS, MEDS. So these, what I say, are the 4 pillars of health. So M is for meditation or mindfulness. I think there's things that we can do. We know there's so many studies on mindfulness, I'm meditation. I'm old school, so I've meditated for 30 odd years. And that sort of daily practice of just really, just being in a place where we can distill our mind and connect to who we are. And I think that doesn't have to be an hour or 2 hours. That can be 5 minutes, but as long as it's consistent. It's just that consistency every day. And there's so many thousands of studies of how meditation can affect our health, well-being, our immune system. I mean, we know that's true. The second letter of that is E, is exercise or movement. No, we have to move. And that, again, doesn't mean going down the gym 5 days a week. And, I think especially as we get older, we get to a certain age, and I'm at that age where, I have to do strength exercises. I have to do some of that, but also about movement. So, I have a standing desk, just start moving around. I mean, there's a study in Sweden that said sitting now is more dangerous to men than smoking. And you think for a lot of men, they're sitting down a lot, and that's putting pressure on the prostate. So many men I know have issues with prostate issues, and it's erectile dysfunction. We can talk about that later. But that thing about that, we've got to move. So I set my on my phone alarm. I move every 45 minutes. Move around. Because we need to move.
You mentioned the standing desk. I'm going to interrupt for just a moment. I'm literally sitting at my stand. So I'm going to stand slowly while my desk rises here. Come on, go. Oh, it's supposed to be automatic. This was going to be for comedic effect. I was going to slowly rise with my
rising
desk.
up. Yeah, you're
It's
getting
ridiculous.
more higher.
I sit here all day. I'm like, what am I doing? I bought this standing desk and I'm sitting on my ass.
Listen, my friend is the same. He said, he's got. Oh, I won't name his name, but he's got real issues with his prostate.
Oh,
and
let's throw him under the bus. What's his name? No,
I can't
just
tell
kidding.
his name. His name's John. There you go. And he's got a standing desk, and it's like, why aren't you using your desk? Oh, well, yeah, forget, just press the bloody button.
Yep.
So movement, I just think it's, we have to, again, we know this. A lot of this we already know, but putting it into practice is something else. D is for diet or food or what we eat. And so many, I just say, look, people ask me, what shall I eat? I said, well, start off eating real food. And people go, well, what's real food? I said, well, if it doesn't come out of a box or from a factory, it's real food. Or I say, if your grandmother could recognize it, then that's real food. So, at least 80% of what you eat should be real food. You can cheat the 20 other percent, but 80%'s got to be real food. And then last thing is S, sleep. The most important thing. Of all of those things, I would say, I don't know whether you agree with me, sleep is the most important thing. And, I think a lot of these people are much more aware of now, but I think, sleep is absolutely imperative that you get that right. And a lot of people suffer with sleep issues. I'm a bit of a biohacker. I sleep on a sleep 8 mattress, which is AI driven and monitoring my sleep all the way through. Changes the temperature, whether I go into REM sleep or whether I go into deep sleep. My wife's on the other side, and it does it separately for her. She swears by it. I'm sure she won't mind me mentioning, but going through the menopause, being very hot flushes, it's been a life changer for her. So I think sleep is imperative that we get that into balance. You go without sleep for 24, 48 hours, you go psychotic. So meds, I just think that question you just asked then, Jason, get those 4 things in place first.
That's great.
So you sort of hinted at it there with one piece of technology, literally the bed that you sleep on. How else can we blend technology and even AI to hit the markers that are important for us to get those 4 markers or those 4 pillars hit every day?
I think it's we can't be. Listen, I've got everything. I've got a Whoop. I've got my Aura Ring. I've had these I've had my Aura Ring for about 5-6 years now. I think when you got to be, there's a danger of sort of over analyzing everything. You wake up in the morning. I went through a period of this, and my wife refuses to wear one. She thinks I'm crazy. Because that says if I wake up and I feel okay, I feel okay. I don't need something to tell me, because you can wake up feeling great and then you look at your Aura Ring readings for the night and you go, oh my God.
This happens to me all the time.
And you go into this whole anxiety.
Right. What do I believe myself? Do I believe the machine? I don't understand. What's reality anymore?
Exactly. And listen, I've gone down that route because especially now I've got a bed that gives me a reading. I've got my Aura Ring that gives me a reading. I've got a Whoop. I think it comes down to that we still have to trust ourselves. We still have to be connected to who we are. And I think, it can enhance what we do, but we can't get obsessed by it. We can't get obsessed by it. So I think these are amazing tools to use, incredible, to measure our heart rate variability, which is a great indicator of your health and well-being. And I don't know if you guys have got an Aura Ring, but, it can predict. Yeah, it predicts. When it starts to go down, you go, that's it, I feel okay. And then all of a sudden you come down with something. And the data is phenomenal on it. So I think all these things can enhance what we do, but I think we can't go into like analysis paralysis because I've been there, and it's like, yeah, you know as well, Jeremy. You know, it's like you start panicking, and you've also got to connect to being human,
Yeah.
and you
And
know that feeling of well-being, that feeling of just getting out in the morning, seeing the sun, seeing the first light of the sun, and that connection with the earth and ourselves.
so there's a lot of signaling data that you're mentioning there. So you've got all these different wearables and connectables and IoT devices out that can kind of provide you information, but
Yeah.
being able to go through that and, really calculating the signal noise ratio on those items and narrowing the noise down to something that's manageable. Are you currently using AI to do that for yourself?
Yeah, I think again, I think I've calmed down. I get a new device and I go crazy on it. I sort of,
I'm the same.
I've,
I can't tell you how many I have now.
I know,
I'm
I
at
know, I
12
know,
or
I
13.
know, I know, I
Yeah.
know. My wife's like, oh my god, my kids even said, "Now, what? Not something else, Dad." Um, I think there's certain things I find really important. I mean, just the whole thing around your going to bed and your sleep, not eating. I've experimented a lot about this. Not eat like now. It's quite late here, so I've eaten early. So I try to eat before 6 o'clock because I know when I look at my stats from up on my Ring or from the Whoop or whatever,
Yeah.
it will affect my sleep.
Yeah. Heart
And
rate
it
goes up
affect
because you're digesting
heart rate
food
goes
and
up.
the glycogen
Absolutely.
meters are problematic there. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you know it, and that happened to me last night. I went to bed really. I shouldn't have done, but I ate late, and I know it's going to have a knock-on effect. Now, I'm not going to beat myself up about it, but I think it's really brought that awareness. Going to bed early, Jason. I used to go to bed really late, and actually now get into that rhythm of going to bed early, realizing I'm a morning person rather than an evening person. That's been a big thing as well. So just getting to know my rhythms and my circadian rhythms, and even wearing the blood glucose monitor. I went through a phase of doing that and seeing what foods are. So I think it's just bringing awareness. I think it's bringing awareness, and I have to admit it's brought me much more back into balance. I mean, I'm 54 now. I feel better than I did when I was. I'll be honest with you, than when I was 34. I do
Wow.
feel better. I feel more aligned to who I am, because you can take all the remedies you want in the world, all the natural homeopathic, natural, whatever, but unless you're in that rhythm, and life's about rhythm, the body's about rhythm. When we're in tune with that, then I think you are much more, well, you're much more healthier. It's about vitality. That's the thing, because
Yeah.
people talk about energy. You can get energy from a can of Coke or a line of Coke, but but vitality is something that it's innate. Young children have it. I remember being a kid. We just had the school holidays here, and I remember as a kid, I'd get up in the morning, so 6, 7. It was the 70s, so things were different. But on your bike all day outside, come on, grab a sandwich, go back out. I woke up the next morning, did exactly the same thing. I didn't wake up and go, oh God, I've got a stiff back. I think I'll give it a break today. We had vitality, and that is something that I think we sometimes are disconnected to. Is that sense of vitality that is innate, that young children have. I think in the West, it's seen as, we go into old age and it's like a decline, where in the East, often it's not. It's seen where you cultivate vitality, whether it's yoga, qigong, tai chi. I just think we've got to get the language right. But most people's concept of health is not being sick, but it's much more than that. It is how you wake up in the morning. It is that sense of how you feel, that contentment inside.
So I want to ask you about that. The 4 pillars you mentioned. In this last week, my kids went back to school. When they're in school, it's so much easier for me to have that routine because they are gone for 6 hours and I can
Yeah.
plan my day around. I've
Yeah.
got this massive gap where no one's going to ask me a question every 5 minutes. In that week, I've been able to go to the gym every day, spend a little time in the sauna, spend a little time in a float tank,
Yep.
trying to eat a little bit better, taking a little bit more, paying more attention. And I can tell you, I feel better this week than I have felt in months because
Yeah.
I, during the summer, did not do those things.
Yeah.
So that's an obvious sort of first start of, just eat a little better, get some better sleep, exercise, all the 4 things you talked about. So let's pretend I'm a unicorn and I hit all 4 of those every single day.
Yeah.
what else should someone, men of a certain age,
Yeah.
what should be in the medicine cabinet? What else should we be adding to our daily routines?
Well, I'm not even going to remedies yet or things like that. I'm going more again to, well, about the blue zones. It's about how we having people around us, being in a community, having a sense of purpose, having connection with other human beings. I mean, well, I've noticed. I know if you feel know as well, but I know so many men of a certain age that are incredibly lonely. Very
Yeah.
lonely. They've either say they got divorced or they're living away from the family. The kids are living with the mother and they're living by themselves. Loneliness. I'm hearing that all the time with people that I know, yeah, and people a little bit older. Sort of in their 60s. So I think again that's important.
I
Um,
think even men who are surrounded by people, men in
yeah,
families,
yeah,
have sometimes are desperately lonely because
yeah,
of the role they've sort of taken in their family, and it's a
absolutely.
huge epidemic that I don't think is talked about enough.
It's not talked about enough, and I know we talked about this before we started that in the UK, the biggest cause of death, and the biggest cause of death for men under the age of 50 now is suicide, and the second biggest cause of death is accidents. But actually, a lot of them are suicides, but are being misreported as
Mhm.
as accidents.
Yeah.
So I think there's a huge crisis going on around men. I think young men, older men, but I see back to AI again, and I think this is one of the dangers I think as well with AI, as especially in the workplace, as it will take jobs. We know that things will
Yeah,
change. I
already is.
think it already is. Yeah, exactly, already is, and I think particularly for men, what we do is, and I'm not saying it's not for women. We're talking about men here, but from what we do, that purpose is really really important. It's like
Yeah.
that's why you see guys who retire and then they die a year later because they've lost that sense of purpose. They've lost that sense of meaning. It's like when you meet guys, what's the first thing you do? Hey, what do you do? So I think it's a huge issue. And I think that, I just think, yeah, that's the podcast I was talking to you before, Jeremy, called Beyond the Shed that I do. Just talking to men. And what I'm hearing a lot of is, like I said, about loneliness. I'm hearing about shame. That's a huge thing about men don't know how to be anymore. It's like they don't know how to be. Who am I supposed to be? Well, especially young guys as well. Who am I supposed to be now in the world? So I think, a lot of this negativity around Andrew Tate and this whole thing about toxic masculinity, but a lot of guys are going, well, okay, you're telling me that's bad. Where's, especially young guys, where's the mentors?
Yeah.
Where's our mentors?
Yeah. So there are a lot of tools you can use today, a lot
Yeah.
of different AI tools and all the different functions that go into this. And I see you've got an agentic function that can go through and actually try to do prompt engineering and try to wrap some of these controls around it.
Yeah.
Um, there's multiple different layers of pitfalls associated with different types of tools out there and the privacy concerns of your data and how it is you're going to manage those pieces.
Yeah.
And I think understanding the concept of using natural homeopathic remedies that don't have as much literature as other pieces do. Um, as you're asking questions saying, hey, I want to try this different technique that's not necessarily supported by the medical journals. Like
Yeah.
let's say I'm going to go pick up the biopeptide complex.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking at ways to understand my health in the right context and trying
Yeah.
to use these different AI tools to help me make certain decisions, are there certain tools that you think we should rely on more than others? And then kind of bringing that back around and the dangers and the risks associated with that. What's your thoughts on giving it that kind of information over and having, these large data companies pick it up, pull it across and use it for nefarious means?
Yeah. Well, listen, absolutely. I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? It's like the whole thing, what happened with, these data breaches of these genetic testing, the DNA testing. I mean, these companies go bust, and then this data, is sold on or whatever. I think there's a huge risk in that, and I think that people don't realize with AI, particularly, even with things like ChatGPT, the information that they're sharing. Because I've got a tool called Ask Marcus, which is it's called Homeopathy at Home, based on my book. And basically, it's just a small language model, which is all my videos, all my books, podcasts about homeopathy. And there's, on the back end, there's parameters of, I won't talk about sex, religion, anything like that. And there's parameters because it's just for things for at the home. Anything serious, then it says, seek medical attention, from a professional. But I think what I've noticed there, when you look at the data, because you can see the data obviously on the back end of questions that are being asked, people they start sharing more and more, and it's almost like it becomes this. They forget they're talking to really a what do you call it? It's a clone. That's what I'm
Yeah.
very clear. So I'm not because you can phone me, you can speak to me, you can speak to me in
A
any
not
language.
human. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you could, I mean, I've had clients say, "Oh, this is great because I can offer my clients 24/7. They can access that if they're, they've got a fever and they want a remedy. They can ask Marcus, so they can speak to me. They can WhatsApp me." And I mean, the other day somebody said to me, "Oh yeah, I was speaking to you for 25 minutes the other night on the phone," and it's like, yeah, but you do realize it's not me you're talking to. Even though you say it, people, it's human nature, isn't it? We want to connect. So, Jason, I totally agree. I think we, we the trouble with AI, as it gets better and better and better, you will not be able to really distinguish it at all between, I think, talking to it, what you think you're talking to a human. And I think human nature is we want to connect, but AI is extremely clever, as we know, and will continue to be to the point where we won't even know it's taken over. But I mean, that's a whole nother story. So I think it's not only the sharing of the data, but it's also our relationship to it. It will then cause us to share, overshare, and have this sort of, in a way, false connection.
Yeah.
One thing I was experimenting with the Ask Marcus tool last night. My daughter has a bug bite, so I was just kind of curious. What would this tell me to do for this bug bite? She's been on antibiotics for them for a week because the doctor was a little concerned.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, what kind of safeguards you have in terms of liability. Like if the robot gives advice that causes some sort of harm,
Yes.
are you at all worried about blowback from that?
Yeah, well, I think I've got there is a disclaimer on there that this is, just general advice. So, we're only, it's an educational tool, really, that's how it's positioned. So, and that's why in the parameters that if anything is serious, you'll see it say you should really consult a qualified practitioner. So it's just trying to give really advice and point people in the right direction. And why? Because there's a lot of things you can do before you go to a doctor. There's lots of things you can do in the home. And for example, like I said, like bites or things like that, or, just general, very acute things you can deal with at home. And that's, again, going back to what I said about what your grandmother did, your great grandmother did. They knew what to do. And in a way, we've sort of forgotten these things and we just hand it over to the allopaths, to the allopathic profession. Now, I'm not saying don't go to a doctor. What I'm saying is there's things you can do first before you go and seek help. In my book, Homeopathy at Home, I talk about what remedies to take, like the top 5 remedies for bites or for stings and different things. But also you can just go to the kitchen cupboard, and I've got kitchen cupboard remedies in there, like bicarb of soda, put it on put a bit of water, put it onto the bite, and it will really help. So I think it's just really trying to empower people to really to do things that they simple things that they can do at home. And I think the more that we do that, the more that people come out of fear, because what's fear? It's just lack of knowledge. So there is things we can do, before we have to go to that. I mean, really, antibiotics should be the last resort. I mean, Alexander Fleming, the inventor of antibiotics, said you should only use antibiotics really in serious cases. Otherwise, you're gonna lower the whole health of the nation.
Yep.
And we've got big issues. I don't know what it's like in the States, but in the UK, of antibiotic resistance now, so we've overused them. So what these remedies do, when you take these remedies, shall I explain a little bit about homeopathy so some of your listeners know what it is?
That'd be great. Sure.
So homeopathy it works on a very simple principle. It comes from Germany. It was around 200 odd years old, but it works on the principle of like cures like. So if you chop an onion up, your eyes water and your nose runs. So we use onion in a very diluted form, homeopathic form, for, say, colds, where your eyes are streaming and your nose is running. So whatever can cause something in a large amount, in a small amount, it can cure it. Another example would be coffee. So you drink lots of coffee, you get very wide, you can't sleep, lots of thoughts. Well, we use coffee in its homeopathic form for people that have those symptoms without drinking coffee. So they're really busy and the brain's running, they can't get to sleep. So it's a very, very simple principle, and it's an ancient principle, really, like cures like. So really the remedies are like tools, like keys to a lock. So if you have a key to your car, the key in itself is not powerful, but that key in that lock of the ignition of the car, and then it gets the engine going, then that's like the body. Once you stimulate the body to heat itself, off it goes and it can deal with it. And I think a lot of the time we get very disempowered around our health, but it's around really helping the body heal itself. So I like to use the analogy of the car dashboard. If the oil light flashes, it means there's something wrong in the engine. But if you just take the bulb out or suppress the symptoms, there's still a problem in the engine. The car's going to go back down the road. So really what we need to do is go into the engine, fix the engine, and the light will go off by itself. So
you
I
mean
think
replacing the bulb doesn't help it when I put sugar in my gas tank?
no, exactly. Definitely does not. Definitely does not. I don't want to use this car analogy because I'm not really into cars whatsoever. But the good analogies to use.
It's good
It's
for
because
Americans.
we all have that light on. And we're like, it'll be
Exactly.
fine. I'll just
It'll be all right.
Exactly.
It'll be okay. Yeah, exactly.
It'll
We don't
fix
need to
itself.
sort it. Yeah, it'll fix itself. Yeah. We're born with innate health, and that's the thing we need to get back to. I think we need to. I think look, there was big shifts happened in 2020. The whole COVID pandemic, the whole thing, lockdown, and for a lot of people, it really was a huge shift that they realized you have to look after their own health and well-being and the well-being of the families, because there was nobody there for that first year. There was nobody to rescue them. We just locked down, didn't we, and wore masks, and people were very disempowered. So I think it's really important. God, look what's happened in 5 years. AI, lockdown.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been
Crazy.
phenomenal, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. We've had a lot of. I'm 50. In my entire life, I've had symptomatic Western medicine pushed down my throat.
Yeah.
And, obviously treating symptoms and not actually getting the root cause of actual real problems. And a lot of the ways that people I've seen a lot of Western medicine start to try to embrace more of the holistic medical approach and try to incorporate Eastern medicine into some of these philosophies. Yeah. And I've seen various levels of success. And it's interesting you brought up the Germans, because the Germans, I've been to Germany several times. I've gotten sick there more than once with sinus infections and other things, and walked into the doctor and they're like, here's some echinacea. I'm like, I know that's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
Do you have something maybe a little stronger? And they're like, nah, you got to take this for like 3 weeks first before we're going to give you anything stronger.
Yeah.
The technology is obviously there to do other interesting things. Like the Germans also use things like pulse electromagnetic frequency machines,
That's
the
right,
BEMER machines, those types of things.
Yeah.
And NASA uses that. Like we've got these things that we know that there are systematic ways to treat certain longevity and vitality problems.
Yes.
And we can use them to go through and be preventative and, to inoculate us from these things kind of as you move forward. But we also are consistently fighting a medical system that, from an insurance and a payer perspective, is not designed for that. It's not designed for prevention. No. It's designed for symptomatic care and catastrophic care.
Yes.
So along those lines, I've seen people go, I have to take care of myself. These are the methodologies that I have to use. But then when they go and they talk to their actual medical doctors, and they're like, I use baking soda to treat this bite wound and it got infected anyways. And having the regular doctor yell at them for not coming to see them right away. How do you coach people to be able to manage and mitigate these things in the real world? Because honestly, the real world is not set up for holistic care. It's set up for symptoms, assuming we're all in a solid state. How do you get people to break that mindset?
Yeah, well, without getting into conspiracy theories, we know why. There's a lot of money involved here.
Of course.
The pharmaceutical industry is not in the wellness business; it's in the sickness business. We know that. Look at the whole issue you had with in the States of the Sackler family, and I think they paid the biggest criminal fine ever. I think it was something like $9.2 billion.
Because opioids make you feel amazing.
Yeah. Was it Oxycontin? Was it Oxycontin? Was it
Oxycontin?
Yeah, Oxycontin. Yeah,
and oxycodone. But
that's right. Yeah. So a huge, massive. So yes, that's the way that the system has operated, and it's. I could tell you the whole history of homeopathy in America, which is phenomenal, but we might have time for that. But I think there's a shift going on. I've been doing this a long time, 30 odd years. The last 5 years since what happened with COVID and lockdown, I've never seen so many people looking for a more natural healthcare solution for themselves and
Mm.
their families. It normally happens when people have kids, particularly. So, if you've got kids, you're that newborn baby, you don't really want to, that intuitively, you don't want to put anything into that child that is harmful in any way or toxic in any way or powerful in any way. And I think what happens is people start to look into different things, and that's often when they get into more natural sort of solutions. So the more that people use it, the more that they see the results. And there's all different levels of health. So there's the bumps and the bruises, the coughs and the colds. That's acute. Then you deal with chronic disease. And in my experience, when you take cases of people who come to see me, say they come in with arthritis.
Uh-huh.
Now, in holistic medicine, whether it's homeopathy, Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, we don't separate the mind from the body. So we're looking at also the mental and emotional as well as the physical. So somebody can come in with, I'm just going to give you an example, or like migraines. Somebody can come in with migraines. You take the case, the 34, you take all the symptoms of the migraine, what makes it better, what makes it worse, all those symptoms. And then the next question you say, when did it all start? And they said, well, probably started 6 years ago. The next question we ask is, what was happening in your life 6 years ago? What was going on? Now, they could say various things, but say this is a very common thing that you hear. Oh, that's when my mother passed away. Okay, just tell me more about that. Yeah, she was very sick for a long time. I was nursing her, and then she passed away. And the person starts, you can see them, that they're still in that place of grief. The tears come to the eyes. And then you say, how do you feel about it? Say, I feel like it was yesterday. And just don't feel I've let it go. And they may start to cry or they may get upset. Now, often those people have never been asked that. What happens, they take a drug, be given, take this drug for your migraines, suppressing the symptoms, and then the migraines can clear up or get worse, and then they develop X or something else after that. Because if you suppress what we call the vital force or the chi in the body or prana, then the symptoms will come out somewhere else. So you'll give them a remedy for that, in that instance of migraines, for grief. You give them a grief remedy, a remedy for grief. And they come back, how are you? What was that remedy you gave me? I stopped crying for 3 days. How do you feel now? I feel a lot better. How's your migraines? Yeah, I think they're 20% better or 30%. Carry on with the remedy. So there's an example where it's not just physiological, because migraines can be caused hormonal to the hormones. It can be all different reasons, but also it can be emotional as well.
Yeah.
So we can't cut away the mind from the body, which in medicine it does often. We don't make that connection, but all these other systems of medicine around for thousands of years, they do. So really, to answer your question, Jason, a long way around is often people are looking for something else. They are looking for something else, and they will try other things. But it's about having choice around your healthcare. I'm not anti-medicine. If I'm in a car accident, the first place I want to be is a hospital. I may be taking arnica or something on the way, and that did happen to me. But, amazing, phenomenal. I've worked in hospitals. I worked in hospital for 3 years. But if I've got a chronic disease, I'm going to look at other ways to try to get my body to heal itself before I go down that route.
So there are a lot of things that are affecting our immune system's natural ability to actually operate and heal itself. Environmental pollutants, microplastics.
Yeah.
There's all these different pieces that go into it. And, there's a whole lot of different therapies out there, like chelation therapy, to go through and try to pull these things out, which have their own problems, like being able to, can shut down your kidneys and liver and everything else.
Yes, yeah.
And there are naturopathic, almost chemotherapy-like therapeutics that are out there that I've seen people kind of pushing and edging people towards. Along those lines, I have a chronic disease or something that's potentially going to kill me.
Yeah.
What's your recommendation on helping people balance the prescriptive methodologies for trying to address some of those types of disease versus homeopathic? Like there's a balance, right? I mean, how do you find that balance?
Yeah, well, I think it's about, I think healing should be gentle. I don't think it shouldn't, we're not, again, as I talked about, like when you stimulate the body to heal itself, it's like, say you go for acupuncture, for example, if you've ever had acupuncture.
Many times.
Just yesterday.
Yeah, there you go. So when you have an acupuncture, they put the needle in and they leave it in. They're not doing that with a needle. They don't use a big, well, sometimes it can be painful if the meridian's a little bit congested, but generally, they put the needle in, don't they? And then they leave them in. Why? Because they're letting the the chi flow, the stagnation of the chi. But it should be should be a gentle thing. Same with homeopathy, all these things. It should be gentle. So a lot of these things, I think, it's a very allopathic way of thinking. Not we've got to get this, we've got to detox this, we've got to pull this out. Actually, you just start slowly. It's a slow start, and it's so. Say for example, you say eczema is a really good example. Often with eczema, it's the two with the bowel is connected because again, there's a connection between the bowel and the skin. So the first thing you do is really treat the bowel. And so making sure the bowel is okay. And we know now microbiome, I mean, God, natural therapists have been talking about this for hundreds of years, but I mean, now the microbiome is the thing. But this is important. So if you get the bowel working properly, then the body doesn't need to discharge out onto the skin. So it's about I think things should always be gentle. I think it doesn't need to be severe because, again, you're just stimulating the body to heal itself. But yes, we can get into this thing of getting these plasma transfusions to get all the microplastics out of our. I get it, and I can also get into that. Oh, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. But actually, I think there can be a lot of danger in that because you're trying to do too much too soon. So
yeah, and along those lines, being gentle with yourself. Being gentle with yourself implies that you require patience.
Exactly.
And when you're in a stressed out state, and I mean, a migraine makes sense. I can be patient for a day, but if I've got something that's a chronic pain condition, telling someone to be patient over a protracted period of time, and then watching how these things get better, that can be hard. Are there any tricks, tips, techniques that you can think of to keep people motivated to staying on these gentle therapeutic paths, as opposed to pressing the panic button and saying "fuck it"? I'm gonna go get the opioids.
Listen. Again, it's a scale. I don't think anybody should ever be in pain. So I'm not against people if they need to take pain, they need to take painkillers. But again, it's about, I would say, a lot of these things you need to get a good practitioner. It's very difficult to treat yourself often because we can lose objectivity. So I think getting a good practitioner, and I would say to get a good practitioner, go word of mouth. That's always the best way. Whether you want to get a plumber, a builder, whatever, mechanic, word of mouth. Because you go word of mouth, you can trust the person that's recommended. And really, a good practitioner is walking alongside you, but they can see the wood for the trees. They're experienced, they've seen this before, and they trust you, because sometimes the body will start to detox.
Sure.
So, you give a remedy and things, they can get discharges, and it can be, whoa, what's this? I had a patient the other day, gave him this remedy, started with his fever. As soon as the remedy touched now he wasn't having allergic reaction. His body was going, okay, we need to do a fever. And he was sick for a couple of days. But he said, you know what? I feel amazing. I said, I feel so clear in my mind. Why? Because the body needed to do that. So it's about education as a practitioner, explaining what is happening and why it's happening. Because again, we've been led to believe fevers are a bad thing, so we need to suppress it. No. Fevers is what we do. It's
how your body kills bugs.
Exactly. Yeah. And it only becomes an issue when it's suppressed, and then it tries to do it more. And this is when you get complications in fevers because of often with intervention. But often, a fever there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. So you've just got to trust that. But again, I think a good practitioner who's experienced and can help walk alongside you and explain why your body is doing what it's doing.
Yeah. Marcus, we've kept you much longer than we asked for, so thank you for the time. I have 2 questions left, but they're both all about you.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm having a good time.
Great.
I've woken up now.
Both questions all about you. First, you've got a couple different podcasts, the book you've mentioned. Where can we learn more about you?
Yeah, you can go to my website. It's not great information on there. Marcus-Fernandez.com. It's my website. My book in homeopathy at home, which published by Hay House and Penguin Random House, came out in January. It's been an Amazon #1 bestseller, and it's a book I wrote really for the home. Exactly what we're talking about. It's like it's an A to Z. It starts off with acne, athlete's foot, you name it, warts. Chilblains, all different coughs and colds. But again, it gives you the top 5 remedies for each of those conditions, and also things you can find in the kitchen cupboard. You can also, there's a QR code in there where you can scan. I've got a free homeopathy home prescriber course people can do online, and also free access to the Ask Marcus, my clone, my AI clone, where you can ask me any question 24/7. And the reason I wrote it, I just want people to be empowered around the health and well-being. And I think it's a really lovely, back to what we're saying about gentle, a really lovely, gentle way of getting on that path to health and well-being and true health. Like I was saying, most people's concept of health is not being sick, but it's a lot more than that. It really is. And I think we need to change our sort of paradigm around that.
And I guess last question, where do we start to do that? What are some simple steps that someone can do literally right now while they're listening to this podcast to start down that path?
Right. Well, I've talked about meds, so you can start doing the meds, but just very simple things. Like I said, first thing in the morning, getting that morning light, that red, infrared, near infrared light in the morning sets the whole circadian rhythm for the rest of the day and actually sets it for the night. Going outside in barefoot. Again, people think this is, a bit hippie-ish. So many studies around grounding and walking on the ground. We're electrical beings. We're like little batteries. We need to be grounded. I was in Bali for a month with the kids. I was talking at a conference there. First thing I do when I get off the plane is find some grass, just to ground and just feel better. So it's those simple steps. Back to the meds: meditate, exercise and move, eat real food, and sleep. And also love. That's the biggest one of them all. Make sure you have plenty of love in your life if you can, whether it's your children, your family, friends, whoever. So,
as we found over and over again on this show, going back to the basics is usually where we need to start to turn things around.
Always the basics. Yeah. Always the basics.
All right, great talk there with Marcus Fernandez. I really enjoyed that conversation. I hope you did as well. All of the links that he mentioned are going to be in the show notes for this episode. You can find that at brobots.me, including links to his podcast, which I know I'm going to be listening to a lot more, and a link to his book, which I know I'm going to be spending a lot more time with my own pain and illness issues that I deal with from time to time, especially as a dad with 2 growing girls. But that is going to do it for this episode. Thanks so much for listening. If you found any value in this, please do share it with someone else who might. You will find links to do that as well at brobots.me. That's also where you'll find a new episode from us next week. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you soon.
We know this podcast is amazing and it doesn't seem to lack anything, but we need a legal disclaimer. Prior to implementing anything discussed in this podcast, it is your responsibility to conduct your own research and consult your physician. You should assume that these knuckleheads don't know what they're talking about, and they're not liable for any physical or emotional issues that occur directly or indirectly from listening to this podcast.